wow. I love this 350. Go in the hole. Kick left. Yeah, again, first shot back in with this. That's seriously impressive, isn't it? So welcome back to another in-depth head-to-head review and test of these two irons. And today we're carrying on with a brand new range from Titleist. We've got the T200, so the tour distance iron or player's distance iron, going up against the T350, which is really the game improvement iron of this lineup. Now we're going to be doing this at 2 speeds for all you lovely people out there, one normal swing speed and also an average to slower swing speed, so around 80 mile an hour. So we're obviously going to be doing look, sound, feel, and of course performance. That's going to be very interesting. Like, we're going to see loads more forgiveness from the 350 over the 200, and what we're going to see from the 200, kind of more launch, more spin for that more control. Like, could we even combo these irons? Like, could we do 350 in the long irons and T2s in the shorter irons? Well, today, we're going to find out. Okay, so let's start off with the looks section then, because I believe these two irons have been massively improved over the old models, especially the 350. I mean, we can all agree the old model, yeah, didn't look the best, but this one much cleaner, much sleeker, and for a game improvement iron, quite sexy really. I mean, a lot of the game improvement irons of the past have not been the best looking, but this just, yeah, I think it looks absolutely lovely from this angle. Made to blend again with the T200, very similar kind of sleek appearance from the back. Made it kind of more of that metallic-y color, so it actually matches in with the rest of the head. The old one of the big complaints was that kind of dull gray plastic back. And on that note, you'll be very pleased to know, again, new versus old will be coming in detail. However, that kind of, a lot of people complained about that. But then the new one, don't even know if you better hear that, but it's completely different, like way, way better. And again, the acoustics have been tuned, sound, feel, we're going to touch on that in a minute as well. Quite improved over the old model. So looks from that angle, both, yeah, really nice for the kind of irons that they are, down by the ball. Yeah, 350 is a bit chunky. You know, we're going to expect that. It is a game improvement iron. It's bigger profile, heel to toe looks bigger, top line looks much bigger. Shape still looks quite nice, if I'm honest, but it is obviously quite a bit bigger. The 200, yeah, I mean, it's classed as that tour distance iron, so player's distance essentially. So a very nice, compact player's shape. Heel to toe looks nice, top line looks really nice and compact behind the ball. Obviously that bit stronger in loft to give you that little bit of extra pop, that little bit of extra distance, which again we're going to touch on very soon as well. But yeah, T200, lovely and compact. 350, yeah, a bit chunky, but if you're in the market for that game improvement iron, still a really nice shape. And yeah, it looks good. Right, sound and feel comparison, and T200. Now, obviously with the old one, there was a lot of people complained that it was clicky, high pitch, felt a bit hollow. And to be fair, I do agree, it definitely wasn't quite there, was it? But this new one, again, old versus new, in more detail and depth coming. But the new one, see how this one sounds. Actually nice, I hit that well, turned it a fraction. She'll catch a bit of the green, be all right with that. Yeah, 100% straight off the bat, like a lower, more muted, far more than the previous one anyway. Still maybe a fraction of a click to it. I'll overlay a few different shots so you can hear. Again, I don't know how it's going to come across on camera, but it felt great to strike. Yeah, there's definitely still a little bit of a crack to it. I'd say from the 100 and 150, which was my last head-to-head that I did, so if you haven't watched that, go and see it. 100, very solid, forged iron feel, as you'd expect. 150, getting a little bit crackier. This 200 getting a little bit crackier still, but 100% improved over the last one. Felt very solid, very nice. So let's see if there's much difference between that and the 350. It was a tiny bit thin, that one. But again, I mean, so we get a game improvement iron, right? Might need to put them in the bag. I mean, still flew 190 odd through the air, even though I nearly missed it. But that was duller, muted. Again, the strike was slightly different, and still felt great. Like, obviously, I could tell it was a miss hit, but it didn't feel bad at all. That's a better strike. That just goes so high. It's going to be really interesting to dive into these performance numbers, because wow, that has gone high, which is fantastic for this sort of iron. But yeah, actually feel-wise, they're not that dissimilar, which is fantastic really for an iron that obviously looks like the T200 and looks like this. It's similar construction, to be fair. This is just a little bit bigger, a little bit chunky, a little bit more mass down there, which is showing in that launch, geez. But yeah, sound and feel, not too dissimilar. A little bit louder, a little bit crackier, but for these sort of irons, what you'd expect. So looks are obviously very subjective. Some people will hate looking down at that big chunky top line, think it's absolutely disgusting. And then some people might even be terrified looking down at the T200 being a more compact head. And so sound and feel, subjective. So jump down in that comment section below, let me know what you thought about that comparison and which one you think you'd be gaming. But now we're jumping into the performance element of this video. And first up, we've got the T200, and we're going to be swinging at my normal swing speed first of all. So I'm excited about this one, so let's jump in. Oh, that felt good. That felt good. First one with the T200, we're going to take that. And it's going to be really interesting to see these numbers. I mean, yeah, that's actually pretty good, to be fair, isn't it? The old T200 was one of my go-to heads for higher launch and a little bit less spin. Great for that. So it's going to be really interesting to see if that spin is improved. Probably going to need to watch the new versus old video for that, but I'm going to give a bit of an indication in this. But yeah, I mean, it's 138.8 feet. That's high. Oh, that was flushed. Get a little bit of a draw, but it does feel good, this. 100% more solid feeling than the previous one. Duller, more muted, definitely now the more I'm hitting it. It's a great strike. Again, spin's getting like 55. It's definitely a bit lower than I would like to see personally. Going to be interesting to see the slower swing speed as well. It's not like it's going to struggle to stop though, is it? That is into orbit. So now jumping into the bigger, chunkier game improvement iron, the T350 at my normal swing speed. Yeah, very intrigued to see what we can get out of this one. Oh, wow. I love this 350. Go in the hole. Kick left. Yeah, again, first shot back in with this. That's seriously impressive, isn't it? And again, it feels really good. I have moved the flag back a little bit, to be fair, compared to when I was hitting the T200, so that probably did go, yeah, further. I've just moved the green back a smidge. Oh, this just needs to go in the bag, doesn't it? Feels class, it really does. Easiest 200-yard shot you'll ever hit. Yeah, 2 shots, done. Oh, so I literally just turned the camera off and then did this. Yep, clean out, hole in one from 200 yards, 350s going in the bag. I must say that T350 is surprising me. Honestly, it's a joy to hit, and I did not think it would be. So we're going to compare the numbers at the end, but for now, I'm going to show you a couple of shots from my testing at the slower swing speed, so around 80-ish mile an hour. First up, we're going into the T200. Pin at 155 now, trying to swing as neutral as possible. That was pretty good. 78.8 swing speed too, very good. Nice, really good. Good strike that. Yeah, perfect strike. Yeah, really good efficiency still. Grab that one. It's a nice flight though, isn't it? Nice flight. Yeah, just launches nice and high. Again, that's something that I always really liked about this head. For someone who has a little bit less speed, who wants to get the ball up in the air that little bit more, it was a really, really good option. So again, popping up nicely, but the spin may be starting to get a little low, and this is always one of my biggest concerns in fittings with average kind of or slower-ish swing speeds. It's like we need to make sure we're getting that height because we want to get that control. I always like to kind of err on a little bit the higher side with a 7-iron because we know it's a good chance that peak's going to start to drop a little bit as we go into the longer irons. So bit of a concern, especially now we're jumping into the T350. Again, for slightly slower swing speed, we've got to be really careful about that launch and spin. So let's see how it does. See if we can get some more holes in one with this bad boy. It felt really good again. I pulled it a bit, but the strike was solid. Yeah, I think that's gone miles, and it was like a, was that like a 170 carry and you're not even trying? Good strike. Yeah, turned it a bit, 12 yards left, still on the green, that's okay. Felt really solid, strike was good. It feels impressively good. Yeah, that's the one. That sounded really good, felt really good. And swung that a little bit slower, that one, closer to 78, but again, it's good. We'll make sure that the averages at the end are fair. Again, that's really good spin. Really good. For this iron, again, like if we're in a fitting, I might say I want that a bit higher, to be honest, but comparative, really impressive. Right, here we go, performance number differences. First up, starting on the slow swing speed, following on from what we just hit there. So you've got T200 at the top, T350 at the bottom. Now, the first thing that jumped out to me that's actually very, very impressive, the peak height and the descent of these were exactly the same. Both 85 feet peak, 44.5 descent angle. So actually really good considering the 350 is stronger in loft and is that different design with the mass down low. It actually still does a really good job of retaining a decent amount of spin. We only see 200-ish revs of difference between the T200 and T350. And similar with the launch, we see a little bit less, but not loads. So the fact that we get a little bit more ball speed, a little bit more pop out of it, but we're retaining very decent launch and decent spin, actually means that they still peaked at exactly the same height, which is really, really good. I think they've incorporated that tech from the previous T200, which launched really well, brought it into these heads, but actually managed to maybe gain a little bit more spin as well, which is absolutely fantastic for this kind of iron. Because the one thing at slow swing speed, when you go to stronger lofted irons and that launch comes down a bit too much and you can't generate the spin, you just don't get the height. That's what you want, a little bit more height, a little bit more spin. So a little bit more ball speed from the T350, a little bit more spin from the T200, and averaged out at about 4 yards of carry difference, which again is still really, really good. So if you're still getting the same height, the same descent, but you're actually getting more distance, just ticking all the boxes. So just to show you that I did swing them at pretty much the same speed, you see there, it was 1 mile an hour in it to be fair. So I did swing the T200 1 mile an hour slower, but at this kind of swing speed, that's still within anyone's kind of realm that 1 mile an hour you could be different swing to swing, obviously. So it's not too bad, and path was pretty much exactly the same, angle of attack pretty much exactly the same. Obviously we'd expect to see a bit of a difference in dynamic loft because the T350 is 1.5 degrees stronger in loft. So yeah, swung them pretty close. Right, fast swing speed performance numbers. Again, we're kind of seeing a similar pattern really. Obviously, we're going to get a little bit more ball speed than the T350. We'd expect that. What's that, kind of 1.5 miles-ish? Again, similar-ish difference to what we saw with the slow swing speed. Now, launch and spin, we see a little bit less launch now from the T350. Again, at my normal swing speed with my normal delivery, I'm going to probably get more down because that's just my normal swing. Whereas when I was swinging a bit slower, probably would have been a bit sweepier, a bit less down. We'll have a look at the club data in a minute, but generally if we get steeper, we're going to hit down more. We're going to reduce launch and increase backspin through more friction. So obviously that's what we see. But again, in terms of the two and how they compare, it's a pretty similar pattern. What we're seeing, a couple hundred revs of backspin, not loads. That's fantastic again from the T350. Launch just under 1 degree less, which is probably really what I'd expect to see, to be honest, at my swing speed, which again is really, really good. And again, 4 yards of carry. So actually the pattern, which is an interesting point about everyone always saying, I would like to see it at slower swing speed because I can't relate it fast swing speed, where the pattern's always pretty much the same really. Like if something launches lower and spins lower at low swing speed, it's going to launch lower and spin lower at a quick swing speed. And actually the difference, as we can see between the two, it's not actually a million miles away. The patterns are still fairly similar. Again, height-wise, we don't really need to worry about height now, to be honest, but the T200 peaked about 3 feet higher. Again, at this sort of speed, height is never really a problem. If anything, sometimes you're trying to get it down because that ball speed just keeps it climbing and climbing and climbing. But yeah, numbers again, really impressive from the T350, really, considering that sort of iron design. Really good. And then again, from a delivery perspective, actually, I wasn't that much more down swinging at my normal speed, was I? Which is interesting, just took off more loft and get a little bit more of that forward shaft lane. So that would have been where the launch reduced from, and then the speed obviously just creating more friction, which is going to create more spin. But you see swing speed almost identical, a little bit more efficiency from the T350 this time, a little bit more pop there. Angle of attack the same, path pretty much the same. Yeah, again, from a delivery perspective, really happy at that to give a good, accurate representation of how these heads perform against each other. So yeah, some impressive numbers there from both heads at both speeds, really, especially the 350. I mean, it continues to surprise and impress me. I mean, the looks, sound and feel and performance. I mean, it is surprising me, to be honest. It's really good. So now, as I did previously, we're going to test the forgiveness of these heads, because we know that the centered strikes are all very well and good, and seeing the difference between this game improvement and kind of more of a player's iron and forgiveness, it's going to be really interesting for you guys as well. So we're going to be doing this at my normal swing speed, high swing speed, really trying to put more pressure through the heads on the miss hits at higher speed. It's really going to test them out. So let's see how the T200 does. Actually challenging myself to see how toey I can hit it. It's quite good fun, actually. Oh, that was horrible. Yeah, I can say that's not even going to pick up the strike on that. Still pretty impressive, to be honest, for how bad that felt. I mean, it didn't pick up the strike because, yeah, that's still 177 carry. I mean, we were kind of seeing about 190, maybe 192, I think, somewhere around that with a good shot. And it didn't pick up the strike, but I'll screenshot in now a picture of where that was, because you can literally see the dimples on the outside of the toe. The reason it didn't pick up the strike is because the ball would have obviously been covering the dots. It was that bad. Again, like, it's similar to the 100 versus 150 story. They're actually way more forgiving than people actually give them credit for now. I know the marketing teams will have to say it's a player's iron, it's for X handicap, that's how they sell them, we know that. But actually, when you have a reasonably okay delivery, i.e. faces somewhat square, and you misstrike it, all right, we lost maybe 13, 14 yards, I'd pretty much expect to see that regardless of whatever iron I'm hitting from front to back. That's probably what I'd expect to lose from a good strike to a bad strike. It's doing the same sort of thing. Yeah, I was quite toey that. But seriously, again, impressive. Now, are we going to see less of a drop off from the 350 with a very similar shot and strike? Let's see. Oh, did we get that strike? I actually did pick that strike up, to be fair, this time. Felt very similar. Yeah, 180. You expect to get a little bit more out of it because it's stronger in loft, but relative to the T200, yeah, super low toe. Again, you see a little bit of a mark on the toe there as well, to be honest. Like, that's been 129 ball speed from that strike. It's impressive. I've got to give that to him. Yeah, that's pretty unbelievable. So this is the thing with forgiveness. It's always relative, like how much do we drop off? What's the good one? And then what's a bad one? And again, this isn't very scientific, but I'm going on about as close as I can with my feel. Those two felt pretty much the same in terms of bad, very toey strike. And we can see with the T200, my best was 194, that was 177. We had a 17-yard drop off. With the T350, my best was 198, and that was 180, so we had an 18-yard drop off. So although they're marketed as being more forgiving, yeah, like maybe a bit more, I'll give them that, but I don't genuinely think loads more. And like I said, from front to back, even if I was hitting a blade and I was to hit it that toey the same, okay, the good one might not be going as far because it's not as strong in loft, it's more traditional, we're going to see more spin and all those kind of things, less ball speed, but the drop off from good to bad, from front to back, probably going to be somewhat similar, to be honest. So yeah, forgiveness is certainly a hard one to actually quantify. So there we have it. Looks, sound, feel, performance, forgiveness, everything in that in-depth review and head-to-head test. So let me know what you thought below, because that generally surprised me. Like T350, I thought I was going to hate it. I thought I was going to hate the way it looked, the way it felt, the way it sounded. I thought it was going to spin way too low, which those sort of irons I just hate generally. But honestly, really impressed with that. T200, Again, like I mentioned about new versus old earlier, that video will be coming. I still don't really know, to be honest. It may be span a little bit lower than I would like to see from that kind of head, but the new versus old will be very, very interesting. Could you combo these irons? 150%, yes, you definitely could. The numbers were quite close, really, weren't they, at that kind of swing speed, especially the lower swing speed. So you still have to work with an experienced fitter, make sure that, you know, you may need to tweak the loft a little bit just to make sure you're getting the gapping and stuff right. But yeah, 100% you could. Even throughout the test, I was like, could I get a T350 4 iron and use it as a driving iron? Because those things are like rockets, and obviously it would be 4 iron lengths, so it'd be shorter, easier to hit. Yeah, lots of good possibilities, but yeah, super impressed with those. More to come, more head-to-heads against other brands as well as new versus old, so make sure you subscribe, please. I'd love it if you did. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.